Happy fall, y'all! It is autumn here in Texas, and there's a lot of pumpkins out there. And I'm trying to carve a particular design into this pumpkin. It's this design right here. So far, I've gotten the mouth and the nose cut, and I've got to work on the eyes now. Every time I look at pumpkins, I have to giggle a little bit. When I was a little girl, my dad would call me and my brother and sister pumpkin heads, or as they say in the South here, pumpkin heads. I know it sounds kind of weird, but it really was a very sweet term of endearment when I was growing up. I'm almost done carving this one. I'm getting pretty close. I only have the eyes left. But believe it or not, the story that I want to tell you about has something to do with pumpkins. Let's head inside and have I got a story for you. I am so excited to tell you the third story in our trilogy of the Wyeth men. Now, just as a review, we have studied N.C. Wyeth, the grandfather, who was the dynamic illustrator of Treasure Island, The Boys King Arthur, The Last of the Mohicans, and many more. He used lots of color and action. Then we studied N.C.'s son, Andrew, whose artwork was incredible but very different from his father's. He used lots of browns and tans and grays, and he liked to paint pictures that made us think, like in Christina's world. Sometimes he would put his dog in the pictures, and sometimes he would just paint a landscape, often of his lighthouse home in Maine. Andrew had two sons, Nicholas and Jamie. Today I want to tell you the story of James Browning Wyeth, affectionately called Jamie. Jamie was born in 1946, which was a year after World War II, and it was also a year after his grandfather, N.C., had been killed by a train. He lived with his mom and dad, Andrew and Betsy, and his brother in Wilmington, Delaware, just south of Chadds Ford, where his grandfather and father had lived. With pencils and paintbrushes and paint all lying around, it was just natural for Jamie to pick up these things and begin to draw and create, and he loved it. He would paint and draw whenever and wherever he could. When he finished the 6th grade at 12 years of age, he convinced his father to let him quit school and just paint all day long. His dad, of course, had to think about it a little bit, but he did compromise, and he told Jamie that in the morning they would hire a tutor to come in and teach him English and history, and then in the afternoon he would go over to his Aunt Carolyn's studio. That was his dad's sister, and there he would take lessons from Aunt Carolyn. She was also a fabulous artist and a very good teacher. The first year, Jamie had to draw spheres and cubes and cylinders and cones, learning how to shade them and make them look 3D. He would get so bored doing these exercises, but he knew that they were important. After a few hours at his aunt's, he would come home and spend the rest of the day in his father's studio or outside sketching nature and animals. He never got tired of painting. Let me tell you, Jamie and his dad Andrew would paint all day long, and Jamie got better and better and better. Believe it or not, by the time he was 18 years old, he had paintings in galleries in Delaware and in Maine. Jamie started off painting portraits. Do you know what a portrait is? It's a painting of a person, and I'd like to show you a few of his portraits. This one is called Shorty. Shorty was a man who lived in town, but he did not like to be around people. He was called a hermit. Somehow Jamie convinced him to come and sit and have his portrait painted. He sat Shorty down in a fancy chair and he began to paint. There's a big difference between Shorty and that chair. Shorty is in his undershirt. He hasn't shaved in a few days, and he seems somewhat uneasy sitting in that fancy chair. Look how well Jamie painted Shorty's eyes, the skin under his eyes, and his scrubby face. Like his father's paintings, it kind of makes you think. What do you think Shorty is feeling from the look on his face? He painted portraits of himself, of his father, Andrew, and even of the President, John F. Kennedy. Jamie also loved to paint the animals that he saw on the farms that were around his house. Chickens, cows. This painting is called number 86. Can you figure out why? Look at the cow's ear tag. And this cow isn't too sure about the vegetable on the wall. He painted an angry swan. Have you ever gotten chased by an angry swan? It is not fun. He painted sheep. This one is called Portrait of Lady. What a fun name for a sheep, and she's so cute. Take a look at how great he painted her woolly coat. Can you see the little zigzags he made with the paint to make her look fluffy? However, one of his favorites was Din Din the pig. He saw Din Din, this gigantic pig, at a local farm. He asked the farmer if he could come by, set up his easel and paints, and paint a picture of Din Din. The farmer agreed, and Jamie began to paint. He spent a lot of time with Din Din. One day, the farmer entered the barn where Jamie and Din Din were and asked if Jamie could quickly come and help him with something. Jamie agreed, leaving Din Din lounging next to his easel. When he returned to the barn, his paints were gone. Yes, gone. Din Din had had a little snack of oil paints while Jamie was absent. Jamie freaked out. Oil paints were toxic, were poisonous. Miraculously, though, Din Din didn't die, but he pooped rainbows for days. The farmer didn't know what to make of his pig and his multicolored poop. He decided he better send that pig to the market before anything crazier happened to him. Jamie found out that the farmer was selling the pig and asked if he could buy Din Din. The farmer agreed, and Jamie took that huge pig home. Here is the portrait of pig that Jamie painted of him. Now that Din Din was hanging out with Jamie, a lot more pictures of Din Din were painted. Here's one called Pig and the Train. And here are a few more. Of course, then there is Kleberg, Jamie's faithful companion. Kleberg would hang out with Jamie at the art studio and follow him wherever Jamie went. I just love this story. One day, Kleberg came up to Jamie while he was painting, and he began to sniff around the easel, the paints, the brushes. Jamie dipped his brush in the black paint and drew a circle around Kleberg's eye. Jamie thought it was hilarious, and he kept the paint on his dog. Every few days, he would reapply the paint. When Kleberg would be running around with Jamie, people would stop him and ask, "What an unusual marking on that dog." Kleberg seemed to love all the attention, so Jamie wound up using black ink so it would stay on longer before needing to be touched up. This painting became one of Jamie's most famous. Jamie's dad owned a lighthouse in Maine that the family would vacation in. Jamie and his dad, Andrew, had so much fun there that Jamie bought the lighthouse from him, and he used it as an additional studio. It was a great place for him to paint the seascapes that he loved and remembered as a child. He could feel the cool ocean breezes. He could be alone and take in the beauty around him. He could watch the gulls as they roamed the hillside looking for a tasty snack. He even painted a sea pumpkin. I'm beginning to think that Jamie liked pumpkins as much as he liked Din Din and Cleaver. He painted a self-portrait with a pumpkin, and it's crazy. This was the face I was trying to carve in my pumpkin. Today, at the age of 74, Jamie Wyeth still paints every day. Now, I'm wanting to go finish my pumpkin carving. You want to join me? I was hoping you would. Oh my goodness. This is so much fun. Okay, so I finished carving him, and all I have to do is take his eyeballs out. Sounds kind of gross, but it is a pumpkin, right? Hey, he turned out pretty good, didn't he? What? No. I'm not going to put this on my head like Jamie Wyeth did. Okay. I'll do it. But first, I have enjoyed teaching you about the Wyeths, the trilogy of the three Wyeth men. And I have loved looking at these talented guys, how they were so different in what they painted and how they painted. Oh, and yeah, I want to remind you to be sure and check our Pinterest page for some fun activities on our Wyeth board. Yeah, I'm stalling. I guess I got to put it on. Here goes. Oh my. And remember to stay safe and stay healthy. I saw that like half my head. Can you see it? Yeah. Could you see my chin? Yeah. Hey, baby. Hey, baby. Okay, do we need to film that again? Or are we good?
No, we're fine.
We're fine, and I'm filming all this too. Happy fall, y'all. The things I do to teach kids about art.